solved it. If you
Okay,
guys,
no, it's technically not solved yet, but we know what the problem is now.
we definitely know what the problem is. Hi, chat room. Welcome to Friday AI, and boy, what an aptly named show it is today. And I've got I haven't even done the Instagram because we were having my link up issues were being the computer was just being kapow, and luckily I made private use of Rob Glenn and we've been behind the scenes flipping all kinds of switches and freaking the F out. He hasn't at all. And my Elgato prompter thing is just deed. It's just deed, and I don't know why. There's prompter. Yeah, it's not even on right now, so I'm gonna have to unplug it and replug it. I'll worry about that later.
Things are slightly duct taped together at the moment, but
slightly.
I know what the problem is now, so we can fix it for real now.
Excellent. I appreciate that. Ladies and gentlemen, Rob Glenn, it's Friday. I am Hal Sparks. It's Hal Sparks Mornings, Megaworldwide. Welcome. Here you are. Hello, hello. And then I think chat room's in there. Yep. Okay, I can see you guys. Excellent. Now I've got to. Now the only thing is I have to put away all my windows that show the internal workings of my computer, so I don't bare myself to the world. We have been. I've been offline because yesterday I've had this kind of running issue since our internet started to fail, and then yesterday I had the lovely folks at Cox come by, and my Wi-Fi at the house was always offline. I had set up a secondary Wi-Fi system in the house because that one theirs never worked. Well, we figured out why yesterday when the guy came by, and he's like, "Where's your panoramic Wi-Fi router?" And I was like, "What's that?" And he's like, "Well, it's a box about this big." And I'm like, "I don't have one of those." And he's like, "You don't?" And I'm like, "Nope." And he's like, "We have it listed amongst the equipment." I'm like, "Where would it be?" And we go look at where everything's all paneled together, in my Franken panel of computer stuff, and it's not there. And he's like, "Well, that would be maybe why it wouldn't come online." That might be the essential problem, is that you don't have one. And I've been paying for it for 4 years, but I haven't had it for 4 years. So anyways, he installed one yesterday, and of course threw it in the daisy chain of all my stuff, and one thing led to another, and everything went to shit. And so yesterday I was all choppy and all that kind of stuff. So hopefully we will get past that part. We may have solved that aspect of it already, but we have some, we have a next big step Rob and I will have to do in the background to solve this issue. We have to
kind of rejigger the wires a little.
Yes, we do. We have to which I'm used to doing. I have to say, I don't know if you're this way, but they always talk about what jobs AI will replace and what jobs robots will replace. And I got to say, I find a certain level of they say Gandhi used to spin thread to meditate. He would sit at an old threading thing and just load cotton into it and spin thread, and it was his meditative way of doing something functional. And and maybe it's growing up in good old-fashioned poverty allows you to have that kind of thing. But I like stringing my own guitars. I like every so often taking all the wires in my studio and going, all right, there's a lot of stuff all attached here. Let's take out anything that's not necessary and start from scratch, and we'll rewire this thing tighter than it was before. I know I will add stuff to it because that's how I roll.
Because that's what you do.
Yeah, exactly. It's who I am. It's apparently in the astrological human design thing, I'm what's called a manifesting generator, which is the unicorn of all the signs, and is a what's commonly referred to as a pain in the ass. Because I'm always doing a bunch of shit, and I'm always trying to make more of things than they are, and I get myself in trouble. That's how I get out over my skis, but I'm apparently necessary to the flow of life. So I'm fine with that. That's okay. I'm not up on YouTube. Okay, I will check that. It might be a thing. Sometimes I have to. Nope, we're up. We're up on YouTube and Facebook. Everybody's, we're firing on all cylinders. We're still even on Shitter, so that should be all right. And I first of all, let's clear the desk real quick. Because I gotta talk to Rob about his new 3D printer. For God's sake, it's the what's the model on it? What's it called?
I got a Bamboo Labs X1 Carbon,
Yeah,
and
that thing's
it's
huge.
awesome.
Yeah,
It's I mean, it's probably not that much bigger build volume than your Snapmaker.
but it's enough. It's enough.
Enclosed. It's fully enclosed.
Right. Yeah, the Snapmaker has you can buy a closure for it, but you don't have to. My closure is my garage. But
So you took us here. So the reason why this one's so cool, it's been around for about a year, I think, and I think it's the #1 selling 3D printer there is.
yes. And because people are prototyping with it and stuff like that because it's amazing. Yeah.
Yeah. So we've always done really cheap printers we're really good at running them. So we run our production for a razor that we make on multiple Ender 3s, if people know what that is. And we've always had something called an Ultimaker, which was our engineering grade printer, and we would be able to do most things on that. But the thing that's rocks about this printer is it automatically does almost everything. So it auto bed levels, which isn't that crazy for things now. But it goes through calibration cycles to read its own vibrations and then eliminates vibrations.
Good Lord.
Like specific to it. And you can, and then it automatically configures its like flow rates for each material. And the way it does it is so cool. Since we're on AI, it has LiDAR and a physical camera. And so it will literally print something with different settings and then look at what it printed and then decide which is the right setting and then change that setting to it.
Wow. Is it
really cool.
Is it the X1 Carbon or is it the X which Ooh, it's the X1 Carbon. Because you can use carbon fiber PLA in that.
No, it's got carbon fiber rails inside of it on one of the axes. That's why it's called the Carbon.
But you can also use carbon fiber PLA in it, right? Which is very cool.
You can use pretty much anything. You can use anything in it. Engineering grade stuff.
That's the
anyway. So so we're like really big on. We don't want to be tinkering with our printers. We just want it to work, and that it just works, which is a joy in and of itself.
Right.
So when you take away like trying to fix your printer, like if you didn't have to fix your computer every day, your show would be so much smoother.
Don't. Yes. Well, that's
that is what it is.
I agree. That was cold-blooded. But you're absolutely right. Anyways, this is it, and it has you can put multiple filaments on the top, and then it feeds. Does it do 4 at a time, or does it just do 2 at a time?
No, it does 1 at a time, but it auto loads and unloads. So you.
Oh right, yeah.
Yeah. So now this one. There's other ones that have multiple heads. This one only has one head. So one of the disadvantages is when it loads and unloads, it like has to prime it and it wastes a little material each time. But you can print up to 4 materials in one print. So it'll print just one and then it'll switch and then it'll print the other one and so on and so forth.
For those that don't know, there are so many different filaments that you can make stuff of. And this will lead to our kind of AI conversation about this, is that 3D printing, while awesome, is a clunky experiment that you're always conducting. Like I am, so much of what I do is like, that didn't turn out and that was a wasted 3 hours, and that didn't turn out and that was a wasted 3 hours. It happens over and over again because like if the print starts lifting off the bed, it'll start like listing to port, and then it'll get progressively worse over time. And or it'll catch something, and then it'll just spirally. It won't print and connect, so it'll just make this big giant hair knot of plastic if you don't interrupt it and stop it. So, but increasingly with AI and other stuff, it is becoming much easier. It's able to maintain it. If it knows something's wrong with the print, it will stop it. It doesn't, and it can pick up where it left off, which
Yeah,
is
can do all
something.
kinds of stuff.
Yeah, and
Yeah, and
in the
sorry.
I just wanted to say in the stuff that you can put in there. So let's say the green stuff is straight up plastic, but the blue in this realm, you could do like there's wooden filament, for example, a filament that's made up of like compressed particle fibers with a little bit of plastic melted, mixed in. I don't know how they make the polymer of it, but it's effectively the same stuff they squirt into like IKEA furniture and into molds and that stuff. So you can sand that stuff just like wood, which is amazing. And then there's like, carbon fiber and other like harder things, or even some metal filaments, which are technically metal, and then you'd have to fire them in something to harden them afterwards. But you can print using a regular 3D printer these metal pieces. They won't be as fine as something you'd use in an engine, but they're way better than anything else. They'd be super strong compared to other plastic prints. And then this white one over here would be the support filler, which is just some stuff that holds up the parts that if you can't print off an edge because it'll just drip. So you build a little platform for it, right, around these things, these supports. And before you had to do that with plastic, and it would use up your regular plastic, making a lighter, shittier version of the plastic. Like it wouldn't do as much of it so that it's easily breakable. And then there'd be remnant connect points that you'd have to sand or polish off to make it look halfway decent. Well, now they have support materials that you can put in that you can wash off, or you can it just crumbles the second you touch it, and it doesn't connect to the plastic too much so that it's almost imperceptible. So you can build supported things and then just run it underwater and the supports wash away, and it's a much smoother print. So the ability to do something like that is just fucking like a huge step forward.
Yeah, we've been playing with that for about a week now, and it's more about just speed and reliability. It goes really fast. It's very reliable, and for us, that's what we want for doing like real work. Oh, thank you for that. I was trying to like keep myself.
No, I was trying
really tight.
It was because I don't want to choke you off. Tara's camera is always, she uses her phone and she's always like this or whatever. So I'm always having to like shuffle around. Yeah. You're getting. By the way, you'll be happy to know that, and I'd already had plans for this. You're getting your own set for Friday Eye. I'm building a whole thing for us to do this show in, because I want to just leave it that way so I don't have to change anything between you and I doing this, because it's a regular thing. And by the way, chat room, you're watching Hal Sparks Mornings Mega Worldwide. Like, subscribe, give a thumbs up, support the show, etc. All the things I'm supposed to say and I never do. Now, and also, let's see, where are you? Hi, chat room. There's the chat right there.
We already have a question which might get us on track.
Ouch.
Maybe. I mean, we're on track. We're on our own track.
Yes, that's
I don't know
true.
if people like what we're talking about.
I don't know about you.
56 Nick Rich said, will AI be a benefit or hindrance to a fair election in Rovember? Awesome that he's using Rovember. I think it's going to be both. I think, and it's going to kind of wash itself out. Yeah.
Because nobody's going to trust
people who.
Yeah.
Sorry. Go ahead.
I was going to say nobody's going to trust anything for a while until we have come up with some way. Like, I had an idea the other day about these like AI voices, and I think at some point with the AI voices, there's going to have to be what I would call a shimmer added to them. Meaning that sonically, a relatively imperceptible kind of like glisten will be added to AI voices for AI companions that will be pleasing to the ear, but clearly not a human voice. Like, so you sound like you're talking through a phaser, a little, like a really slow phaser pedal for guitarists out there that will have kind of like I don't know if you saw, this is a fucking weird reference, but the woman in who is half dragon in the Golden Child that he speaks to has this kind of chorusy effect on her voice, when she's talking to him. That will be our like legal distinction. Like, hey, if you're using an AI voice and it's not a human voice, you got to add this waiver to it so we we can perceive with our ears, hey, that's an AI voice, not a human, not a real human. Just like you say in a commercial, paid actor. Like for somebody, it's the same rule. It's just we like you're always saying, we have rules in place. It's just a version of that, that we use.
Yeah,
We just,
like you're effectively tagging something. And so if you regulate that everything, certain percentage is AI generated, you would regulate the percentage, maybe regulate the definition for what that means. And then if you don't tag it, then that's illegal. And if you do tag it, then you're fine. And then when it is tagged, devices can basically tell you, just like you said, like a lot of podcasts will tell you when it's a paid advertisement. I don't know if they're regulated to do so, but most people do.
Yeah, on YouTube, you have to have a rule that says contains paid promotion, which, by the way, I reported a Glenn Beck video last week over that very thing. Remember when he started adding ads to, like, all of a sudden I was doing one of his clips and there was suddenly an ad in it. I was like, it didn't say contains paid promotion at the top of it. There's a little thing that always comes up when I see that. Good and decent people always do that. And he left it out. And I was like, fuck you, dude. And so at the very least, it will, they'll have to start doing that. Similar kind of situation.
That's a private terms of service for YouTube as opposed to nationwide regulation.
Right.
That dictates that needs to happen,
Yeah. So, anyways, so that's going to be a regular part of it. If you're using AI in something, totally cool. Use an AI voice. That's all right. But just put some little like MLSRP, legal opportunity lender, but not available in all states. Like that shit you have to put at the end of an ad or a product. Same thing. AI voices. Some customer voices AI simulated or whatever. Blah blah blah. And again, which is okay, because maybe somebody writes their comment and they're like, I fucking love this product, but you can't say fucking in your ad for, knee salve or whatever the fuck it is. So you take the fucking part out and you make an AI voice going, I love this product. And you go AI voice simulated, from real product, from real customer shit, whatever. But we can't say fucking, so we had to make an AI voice say it so you could understand just how much this lady loved it. Right. Those kind of rules are going to be more and more frequent, I think.
Yeah. And then after that, now you start to get into some things that are very similar to the way we look at food or meat. And by that, I mean that there's like fair use. You can sort of like start to talk about how you're ethically using AI. And so those things might start to become things that we add to our advertisements, So you deal with the training side up front. That's got to be regulated. Then as people use it, if you have to say that you used it, then now we can start to like decide whether or not we want to listen to that or use that.
Right.
And just like we choose organic vegetables, you can choose whether or not you want to consume that or not. Or at least what it is if it's trying to like be part of a news program or something like that. And so that's how these things can start to work themselves out over time.
Right. Yeah. We already have rules in place about like lying or faking or pretending you have customers you don't and all that kind of stuff. That's already illegal or regulated to some degree, where you have to put in certain caveats and, again, paid actor, in an ad. That, where they have to like, my knee was always bothering me, so I took this pill and made my eyes bleed, but my knee feels so much better. Those people they always have that like, actor portrayal thing at the bottom. AI portrayal will be the exact same thing. Yeah. And people will factor that in whether they want to believe it or not. Right. That'll be the essence of this whole thing. And so like, and by the way, Kathleen, thank you for being a member for 19 months. And she says, guilty. Happy Friday.
Yeah, somebody needs to make a shirt with, 34, 35 guilties on it.
Yeah, right.
That would be awesome.
Yeah. Oh, just kind of like
just like a list of guilties.
Done.
There you go. Put that on your store, dude.
Yeah, four across. That'll be great. So the other thing I want to talk about is, like AI is coming to the big talk right now is that the Worldwide Developers Conference from Apple is coming up, and AI is coming to Siri, and Siri is going to be leapfrogging ahead by dragging back a little bit. They were able to watch, see what worked, see what other people were doing, what failed, what was necessary to make, and what isn't. Because OpenAI, I gotta say, OpenAI seems to be, since people are using OpenAI to create versions of OpenAI or of ChatGPT, they're using ChatGPT to do it. That ChatGPT is like, well, if you're going to use our service to make a version of ourselves, we'll just make another version of that, and that's that. You didn't invent it. You just thought it up, and everybody would have, as a bunch of people were asking for it as a use case. You didn't create the use case, so we'll make a better version of it and just make it part of ChatGPT. We'll just, right. And so all these factors are now a part of ChatGPT now. I'll see if I can open up a window where I can kind of show you. Show the folks at home, but
yeah, I think the biggest thing might be that they're connecting it to be able to use the apps on your phone and computer. Like the interconnection of it is probably the most, I would say it's not beneficial. Like, well, that's a thing that they can control in their environment, which other people can't, or other companies can't as easily. Mm-hmm. So because they have such good control of their hardware and their software, they can let Siri, in this case, the AI of Siri, do things like access your email or write a text or read your text for you, like things like that. It's a little harder when you have an OpenAI app open and you got to copy paste it over or give permission, and that's where their huge advantage is, I think.
Yeah, I mean, there's the other aspect of it, and this is there are a couple of things that the right-wing sort of libertarian-esque maggots were all yelling a couple of years ago about crypto, for example, like good luck, have fun being poor and learn to code were the two kind of like hashtags around crypto. And hold on, I'm going to open up another browser for this guy just so I can run it separately, because you're in the browser I would normally use, and it will, if I make it speak, you wouldn't be able to hear it. Right now, the learn to code thing is practically dead. Practically. I mean, there's definitely some value to it, but until somebody comes up with, I was about to say, until somebody comes up with a better coding language that beats it, why wouldn't ChatGPT be the thing, or OpenAI, or some AI, some LLM comes up with like, hey, you can learn, we create our own like Chinese squiggles, our own hieroglyphs. That's a way easier thing. You could program just using emojis, and so, or it makes a big picture. So once you see the picture, that's the code. Like it formates the pixels of like a sculpture of data. Like
what are you referring to when you say the learn to code thing is dead?
Well, they were saying it is like, I'm going to be rich, and you guys are all learning like underwater basket weaving and gender studies and poetry and English degrees. Meanwhile, I'm, learn to code if you want a future, like, because there's going to be two kinds of people in the world: crypto billionaires and the people who make it happen. And so the learn to code people was like, go get a factory job, dipshit. But it was also like, be useful. Right? Make something useful to yourself. The irony, though, and I think this is the bigger question, is like, I saw somebody yesterday that saying 100 million jobs will disappear because of AI. And not all of them will be blue-collar jobs or whatever. Almost none of them will, quite frankly. But and it won't be the jobs. It'll be the volume of people doing those jobs, largely. Okay. You know what I mean? And so does that mean, and this is the big question, I think, does that mean instead of having 100 accountants, we now have 10 accountants and a bunch of AIs, and they manage them? Or does it mean we now have 100 accountants who are able to do 1,000% work? And so whatever that company is, whatever was holding it back from being able to do stuff or scale, is now no longer a concern. What do you think? What do you think the odds, of each of those happening?
Accounting is something that keeps you from scaling a company. However, accounting is something that is a necessity,
Well, I would say an
And
accountant's firm, like doing accounting for businesses.
yeah,
Like if people want to outsource it and they go, I don't want to hand my books completely over to an AI thing, and I don't want to sit there and QuickBooks myself. So now you have one manager who runs, 30 accounts. That's your point person, or 40, and they don't have to one-to-one it because they can check using elements by interacting with their version of ChatGPT. Okay, what's this account's problem? Okay, that's because there's a new rule coming and they're preparing for it. That's not
yeah,
the software won't know the rule until it's a rule. But we know the rule is coming, so we'll prep for that and go, okay, yes, we're making a special, as a human, special dispensation. Yes, they should put that down as an entertainment expense, because by the time they file their taxes next year, it will be counted as something they can write off on their taxes. That would be the human
yeah, I
part of it.
gotcha.
Yeah, but
So,
they can now run
these
30 accounts.
these things are so interwoven into like the fabric of what we do. Like there's laws for, I guess, tax, let's say a tax law. And then because the tax laws are so complicated, you need to have an accountant because nobody can ever figure them out. And half the accountants are basically there to try to figure out how to, stay on the edges of things. And so when AI, so yes, like AI is actually probably going to be really good at accounting
Yeah,
in
one would think.
particular, because
Yeah,
you should be
it's
able to, put all the laws in there and then put all the rules for the IRS in there, and it should be able to help you navigate that uh, with machine learning, right? So
right.
it kind of helps you, I guess you could say that it takes things away from both ends of the equation, is what I'm trying to say. It it
Right.
it allows you to not, like, you almost have to have an accountant or a team of accountants if you run a publicly traded company, because it's just such a big problem and so less people could do that work. But when you get down to like individual finances, most people's individual finances aren't that complicated. Even if you like own
Right.
a second house that you rent out, it's still not that complicated when you
Right.
get down to it. And so instead of you going to like QuickBooks, or even the IRS now has their own self-reporting tool that they're going to they rolled out this year as a test, I think. And then next year, I think they're going to go full on with it.
Right.
Um, Most of that stuff is pretty automatic and not that complex. So you take away that stuff. Now, I always laugh, like, is anybody going to be upset if some lawyers lose their job, some accountants lose their job? Like, yes, they will be, but there's like, it seems like we have a different level of concern about different certain jobs being taken or not taken, right?
Right.
But again, like you're shifting, you just shift. If you don't have to spend, I don't know, about 10% of your budget each year on accounting, then that money is going to be used for something else, like product development or
Right.
something else. It doesn't just disappear. It
Yes.
maybe increases the services that a company is providing, or it increases, or it accelerates the development of a new service or something like that. So that's how I see it. Again, just like Nick Rich's question,
Yeah.
almost everything, like I could argue, like almost anything you replace gets replaced, right? Like gets replaced by something else. It's sort of a wash, I think.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I always go back to the forklift idea, is that nobody
Yeah.
worries that the invention of the forklift put the 4 heavy duty guys with the poles on their shoulders out of a job, right? And, carrying the queen around or whatever,
Right.
Trying to walk on the same foot, my tits are falling off. History of the World Part 1. Anyways, I
I'm
love
going to throw
QuickTime
in
Harge.
one more question. Let's
Yeah.
try this question again. Are Hal and Rob open to letting users show what AI tools they use?
Yeah.
I'm not sure what the meaning is. Is that if he means like, this is Electric Outcast, by the way. If he
Yeah.
means like, if you show an image, you should say what tools you use. That's totally cool. Like, that might be a good regulation to have.
The other thing too is have it in the metadata. That metadata again.
Exactly.
This is why I've been calling bullshit on the Hunter Biden laptop forever, and why I will continue to do it, because none of the stuff that is presented as evidence from that has any reliable metadata on it. The Washington Post article where they're like, this is how we verified the Hunter Biden laptop, which they never saw with their own eyes, only saw a third generation hard drive, and they still had the nerve to call that to title it, this is how we verified the hard drive, the laptop, just drives me fucking crazy. But on top of that was the idea that none of the stuff that they were looking at had a metadata trail that they could look at. It had all been so washed and so copied and repeated so many times that you never knew what the source of the data was. It's the same thing. If you take a picture from your phone, it has location data in it, metadata. But if you load it to Twitter, for example, it now becomes a new photo. It's brand new. The metadata on that picture no longer contains the location data, because it just watches it. Here's a picture that was uploaded on this date to Twitter. That's all you get. You don't get the geolocation data. You don't get the people involved. You don't even get necessarily the person who took the picture, because that's how they own your shit later. So all these companies have this thing where it's a wash. So that was the problem with Parler. Parler didn't have that because they were paying whatever, $15 for the demo version of the WordPress security on their things. So people uploaded videos from Jan 6 and they uploaded pictures from Jan 6. It was a direct transfer from hard drive to hard drive, and then they would refer to it on their hard drive. So it was a direct copy. It had all the metadata. This person took this picture. They were standing on the fucking steps at this moment, at this time of day. It was all incriminating. So the Parler breach is why a bunch of these assholes are going to jail. And so the metadata aspect of it is incredibly crucial to the realizing what you're looking at, and guaranteeing that you can look at the metadata and go, hey, if you don't see metadata that gives you the location, who shot it, and the reality of it, or when it was uploaded, at least that particular date, then you could just wash it as AI or somebody's trying to pull the wool over your eyes. You can pretty much, or just don't take it any more seriously than any other of the 10 pictures you've seen of the exact same thing. Like, you just have to parse out, okay, yeah, this is a real image from something that happened, and I've seen other video, or I've seen other, this is just a still image from it. You can take it in context, it would work. But in terms of like AI photos, in the metadata, it would be really easy to just say, all right, every AI video, every meta, any AI created photo or audio in the file data should say created using this iteration of Llama 3.5 or whatever the hell it is, which it will tell you what model it came from, who was, you can even leave out who was using it necessarily. That's not even, you could make it impersonal like that, because if you're just trying to make a meme and it floats around, you don't have to have your name attached to it forever. But at least you know what LLM created it, when it was created, and what version of it, and that it definitely was AI created. I think that as a legal, the president would probably add that as a executive order, and there would be no pushback on it whatsoever, and it could eventually become law.
Yeah. So cameras currently or images already have metadata from cameras.
Right.
It tells you exactly the kind of camera, if the camera has
I know. I had an attempted blackmail. I had somebody try to attempt a blackmail of me at one point, and I was like, they called me and they're like, see this picture? Big trouble. And I was like, I've already looked at that picture. That picture was taken 4 months ago. That can't be real. There's, I'm going to kind of jump around a little bit, but this, Kelly, it just says Kelly, I think. I want to know about AI, how can you discern what is true, what isn't? I'm bringing that one up particular to this is because like you would anything else, you think about verifying it. So in this case, currently AI does not have metadata attached to it. So if you saw an image that did not have metadata, it could be AI. It's probably not a camera. If it has camera metadata or phone metadata, then it came from there. You can verify that. So if it doesn't, now to be suspect of it, right? But like anything else, you verify these things.
And then Deb Denny, I think, what if it makes a mistake, or is that not possible? So AI makes mistakes all the time. And used as a tool, just currently anybody using any sort of Gen AI should understand that it can make mistakes. So you don't trust it 100%. Now that's going to start getting better and better.
Yeah.
But at any point in time, any machine, and a self-driving car is going to make a mistake. It's going to crash. So those are also things that we should consider inside of regulation and all these things. And so now,
Prompt
if you
but
start
verify.
connecting,
Keith, that's very funny. Keith said prompt but verify, which is like it's an inside AI joke variation on trust but verify, obviously. Trust and prompt Allah but tie up your camel would be the kind of version. But the idea of being that prompts are what you use to generate the response. Anything you're literally prompting the computer to speak to you.
So
PS,
Deb Denny said she meant for accounting purposes, and yeah, that's what I'm trying to talk about. Is if you use, again, like I'll use QuickBooks. So if you use QuickBooks and you type in all your information, and they say, yeah, you owe this much, or you get a refund for that much. If you go to a regular accountant, if they make a mistake, they're liable for that mistake.
Yes.
And that's part of the deal you make when you purchase that service, right? So So anybody who's using AI currently themselves, let's say they use their own accounting AI chat GPT bot, it would be their responsibility currently, because the deal you have with OpenAI is not that you're going to use it and they're going to be responsible for anything that it tells you to do with your taxes, let's say.
Right.
However, if a company like QuickBooks decided, or Intuit decided they were going to create an AI service, then they would be like, it would be like any other transaction where they would start to have to take responsibility for that. And that's where we start getting into the things that we were talking about with self-driving cars and robots before. AI has the same issue that we need to deal with. And that is, like, we have to figure out clearer ways to assign liability, and that gets a little harder when you make a thing like AI and then it goes and does something you didn't intend it to do.
Right.
Like, whose fault is that? And that's not a throw it up in the air and say it's nobody's fault. Like, those things must be defined and litigated.
Is it the company that did not make regulators in the software of the hardware to guarantee against these kind of things? That will be one. That will be the deep pockets attack on these things. Or will it be the person who prompted it to do the thing and their level of knowledge about, hey, I just found out online that if you tell it to do this, they haven't fixed this gap in it, and so I intentionally breached that weakness in it and told it to do something that could get somebody killed or harmed, because they haven't taught their robot not to do jumping jacks when anybody's within 5 feet. They forgot to put that piece. There's a missing line of code, or a missing instruction for about another week till the update. And so watch it do this, and I'll wait till my grandmother's walking by, and then pow, and then right. And so the lawsuit is it the company's fault? It's certainly not the robot's fault. So is it the person who is, it's about their awareness of whether they did it on accident. Somebody just told it to do it because they thought it'd be funny and it failed, or because they knew it was going to fail because of online conversations about it that apparently in this weird future I just created aren't monitored by the company that makes the robot to guarantee that nobody does this kind of shit to their stuff, because that's another part of it. That we'll have to work that stuff out. By the way, I just want to show everybody real quick. This is a site. Whoops, hold on. Let me move this over here. This is a site called Metadata to Go. Now, you don't need this. Quit it. I could click it on the wrong page. Metadata to Go. This is just one of many sites that you can go to, but it's a free EXIF viewer, and you can look at the metadata on stacks of photos. So you could take a bunch of, you could go through. This is what I uploaded a bunch of the Hunter Biden pictures that were online into to see where they started. And they're all a fucking dead end.
Yeah.
None of them say where they came from, even from a laptop stopping at a certain date. They had to be washed so many times because the story was bullshit that they had to hide all that stuff. So it's just, it's nothing. They all start from scratch effectively in New York. At basically where Rudy Giuliani's apartment is, apparently. This is where he made these copies and handed them out. Wherever they copied them from, that's where this new data basically dead ends. If I wanted to, I could geolocate his apartment using this. But all photos, all digital files have metadata, even text documents. And some text documents will have stuff in there that's just meant to make your computer searchable. So let's say you're on a network of a bunch of other computers, but somebody wants to find out who clicked on a link and downloaded something onto their site. They can hide in that document. This is how they catch like child porn people. This is how they catch people who are, stealing data, is that in the file documents they're copying in a hidden header, effectively, they hide this like long string of bullshit code that just looks like nonsense to most people, or a date and a thing. And then they go do a string search on it through this kind of stuff, and then they go anywhere this line shows up in any of the networked hard drives in here, let us know. And they'll walk over and go, Thompson, we understand you downloaded the company's perspective before your trip to the Caymans with our competitor, right? That's how they do it. That's how that works. So metadata is king. And unless somebody shows you a picture, a video, anything that, of something happening. This is also, by the way, how quickly they go, where the fuck was this picture from? And like, oh, that's Rod Stewart in Rio. That's how that happened. Like, they didn't have to do even an image search on it. You could just open the fucking picture up, and in its in its identifiers and like properties on a Windows machine, and then in the inspector on a Mac, you can just look at the inspector on there. It will tell you where it's from. So putting that into AI should be a no-brainer. Right away. All AI generated images, and many of them do, by the way, already, but they don't do it by law. They just do it because they want credit for the, like, hey, everybody loves our model. Yeah.
Can AI, this is Wes Bragg, will AI get to the point when we can see real-time fact checks on shows like the 5 other news shows that spread BS lies?
Trying to put me out of a job? Sorry.
I think that's easily something somebody could build.
Oh, yeah.
And it's more about the delivery method. I don't know that the 5 or Fox would want that on their site because they're seemingly purposely lying, but
you could make a co-pilot kind of web browser thing that listens to a video you're watching and goes, watch out for any facts stated, dates, times, elements of a bill or whatever. Look those up for me. If they say this bill has this in it, do a quick scan of that bill and see if it actually has that in it, or what they might be referring to if they're getting it wrong. You can give them a little bit of wiggle room, and you can have that as a ride along in a browser if you're watching videos online. Absolutely.
Yeah, I don't think it. I think just in general, when you think about the marketing side of it, I'm not sure that a broadcast, type of program on any network would like have their AI fact checking. I don't think anybody would believe it, because what would stop you from
right now they still
you like say it's all true, right? But however, on the use side, on the consuming side, that seems like a very cool app to develop. Somebody just like you say, and absolutely, you can listen to people talking. It can listen to anything, any audio, and it can answer. Yeah, it would be great for debates. That's Doc in Paradise. It absolutely would be. And then lastly, just because I just wanted to say it. So Electric Outcast question, there's a pretty long thing in the chat in Discord about it, and I'm a little lost, so I'm not going to answer that. But put that into the AI Discord thing, and we can talk about it. I think I understand it, but we don't need to get into that on the show, I don't think.
Yeah. Gotcha. I see what it is.
We're all over the place today. We
There's a lot.
started
Well,
out
there's
with
a lot. Yeah, we
troubleshooting a
started.
problem, and
Well,
it just
again,
kind
that
of
goes to
went.
the flesh and bone meets AI part of it, which is really I think the thing that people are probably the most nervous about, and that means what's it going to take away from me that I no longer can do that I want to, or that I feel value in my life from, as opposed to drudgery jobs. Now, I got news for you. There are going to be a bunch of like showboat AI robot kind of things. They're already in Japan, a
Yes.
little bit in China, where they'll have like a welcoming robot, which is weird anyways. Like Walmart, Walmart's going to keep their old lady greeters all throughout the South because that's part of their brand. It doesn't benefit
Right.
them to have a robot do it because that's not the point. It's the real human greeting you is part of their methodology, and having everybody on their staff rotate through being a greeter makes them more receptive to clients and also paying attention to who's coming in. And maybe you get to know people who are there regularly because during your shift as a greeter, they come by regularly. So like, hey, Marge, blah, blah, blah. And so it gives it that hometown feel in the giant warehouse. They're not going to replace somebody like that. But a drive-through window part of it, where the people can just make the stuff until such time as it's basically a giant vending machine on the side of the road without people involved in it at all. Or a manager who sits there like smoking cigarettes and just watching the whole thing go by and go, the grease fire, hold on, pout. The DR-52 keeps freaking out on me, man. It keeps making grease fires. We got to fix this fucking thing, right? But up until that point, the orders being like, hey, welcome. Can I help you with your order? Sure, we have that. What would you like? Okay. Anything else? Like that, human beings are having to repeat these same stupid fucking phrases over and over again, and on a limited menu, and I want to say they did a count in Starbucks alone. There are 868 million possible drinks, rounding up to the nearest 1,000. There are nearest million. There are 868 million possible variations of their drinks specifically. And so the idea that a human being has to listen to you go, I want a half cap, double decaffeinated half cap with a twist of lemon, LA Story style is ridiculous for a human being to have to go through that. They don't, but when you get to the window, like, hey, how's it going? Yeah, here you go. How you doing? But they can have a real interaction. They don't have to do the through the box conversation because there's no point. There's no value point in that, right? For another human being.
Yeah. So, they already
yeah.
have an app, like Starbucks has an app, and you can order stuff ahead of time. And so where AI starts to go there with your Siri, going back to that whole thing, is that instead of clicking on the app and typing it in, you can just say to Siri, order me blah, 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 blah. And it will it'll interface with the app. And that's where it's like, that's the nuance or the difference there, I guess you could say.
You could saddle up to the digital bar and go, hair of the dog that bit me, Siri. Hair of the dog that bit me.
If you said, hey, Siri, when I say hair of the dog that bit me, what I mean is blah, blah, blah. Then later, you can just say, get me that.
Yep. Yeah, you can teach it to say, whatever your kind of code for that is.
So I've been thinking about this concept that you were just talking about a lot. And there's a couple of things that I see a lot while out in doing business with people who are worried about this or trying to implement it. And maybe I'll list a couple of them. The first one is that almost everybody I've ever met who has tried to use it for their job has come back and said, yeah, it's not ready yet.
Yep. Right.
And that's across the board, almost everything. And so there's something that, we hear all my career. I've been doing what I do for 25, almost 30 years. And there's been a lot of things along the way where you see a demo of something and you're like, oh my God, I must have that. It's going to solve this problem.
Yes.
And then you go try it and you realize, my problem is just as complicated. And this it worked in the demo, but it's not quite what I wanted. So I'm trying to say that to just kind of like let everybody kind of take a breath for a second and realize that it is progressing faster than most things normally do, but it's still not ready and it's going to take time and people are figuring it out. So my message to everybody is get out there and try it because it's easy to do, it's free, and it's painless. so that you can start to see how it's interacting, and then maybe that'll help you feel a little better about it, like that, oh,
Right.
this isn't quite what I thought it might be, you know. So
Yeah. Oh, you there?
yeah, I'm here, sorry.
Okay, yeah. Sorry, I get like in my little like, oh, there was silence. I'm okay.
Yeah, somebody mentioned like people have been talking about your internet going down. So it's not Hal's internet, it's something else, and we figured out what that was. That's why we were late, and we'll get it fixed.
We're gonna work on it, like as an extracurricular activity, at Rob's leisure. I'm not going to just pilfer him. And plus, I will do the afternoon show. This system is working fine right now, so I won't do anything until then. And maybe we'll fix it next week by the time, and it'll be fine
Next
till then.
week's a good idea.
Yeah. And I leave for Seattle tonight at like 9:00 at night, and Seattle Sexy Liberal tomorrow. Very exciting. Talk about like the home of Google in that regard, because they have their big Amazon/Google campus up there as well. There's like a lot of Seattle is the number 2 Silicon Valley in the country, and there's a lot of like rezzing behind the scenes kind of. It's this. Basically, they did with Seattle what they should have done with San Francisco. Silicon Valley should have moved into San Francisco, but they didn't. The finance of Silicon Valley moved into San Francisco, which is not the creative use of the giant office space kind of stuff. Like Twitter had its house there, and then I guess famously Elon Musk came in and stopped paying rent. But a bunch of these other companies, Apple should have. Beyond the big Apple campus, I think should have taken over one of the buildings in San Francisco, considering that's where a lot of their folks live, and been a little closer to there instead of this space station in the middle of nowhere. But then they're building that whole future city, their own version of Nome or the Line, the Saudi city on a smaller scale, and north of the city over there, which is. It's just a fucking gentrification of a existing thing. People freak out. There's a couple of things. So ChatGPT just became available on the Mac. So there's a Mac app that they launched that you can have up, and it will you can let it have access to looking at your desktop whenever you want to use it. When you don't, you turn it off. That's fine. So you can have private moments. But and I think you can also tell it to, like, if you're using a private browser or you're looking at family photos or you're looking at your photos, you can, in general, whatever your photos may be, you can tell it not, if I've got the Photos app open, gray it out. You can't see it, and it won't be able to see it. It can do stuff like that. But it's not quite there yet. It's a great example of what you're talking about. Like, they launched it, but they said, like, the cool stuff about it that we showed in the demo aren't available to everybody for a while. We're going to dole those out over the next couple of weeks. Mainly to keep people on the line paying their subscription, I would guess, as this stuff comes out. They could have dumped it out, but also because people can wreck it. People could jump in there and start fucking with it. And, this is one of the reasons why they didn't have internet access until they could build it up and build some protections and see what it do, so that people wouldn't turn it racist like the Google one that was on Twitter talking to itself or whatever. But there's this, I'll show you real quick. There's this program which is called Invisibility AI, whatever, and the ChatGPT replacement for Mac. It's an all-around. It uses all the models. You have access to them on the bottom of your page, and I'll see if I can bring it up here. Yeah, it's pretty cool. And then you can, like, he's going, "What am I reading?" And it does a summary of what he's reading from the book he's got on screen, and it will do this kind of thing, and it will use whichever model you want. Instead of being stuck with ChatGPT, their variations, you can have Claude and Llama and whatever else. And it has a sidekick thing which talks on the side, or it can do an overscreen, or it can make a new document. This is the step. I'm just saying, this is kind of what's coming. This is the next phase of it. That's what Copilot is effectively like. You can download Copilot on your PC as a standalone on a Windows machine. Apple is looking for their version of that. And what they're going to do is pilfer ideas from a lot of these things, because they don't even have to, like, these guys didn't program it themselves. They just went, wouldn't it be cool if it blah, blah, blah. And they had it basically make itself. And then they, maybe they worked out some of the kinks, or they figured out how to market it. But even then they could ask AI to do that. So they're not really stealing work from somebody else. Everybody's working on this anyways. And they go, oh yeah, that works. And that part doesn't work. We don't like that. We would have this on ours and not this on ours. And that will become increasingly true of all the software you use, because you'll be able to go like, hey, Mac, I don't like that menu that keeps coming up. Like, just put that to the side, and it's not helping. And it will just not show up again. Or I don't need that button. I need a button that does this. And you can do that on a lot of programs on your Mac and your Windows machine. You can go up and change the menu bar, but I always forget how to do it in between doing it, because it's, once you've done it, you're like, where's that menu thing again? He like brings that down. Now you'll just be able to ask, right?
Yeah. Well, so I'm the same way. I don't memorize. I live by the idea that I never memorize something I can look up.
Yeah.
Because I'm dyslexic, so I'll probably say it wrong anyway.
That's the spirit.
But the idea of, if you wanted to do what you just said, you would jump on Google, you would look it up. There would be some page would pop up. It would give you a list of directions. You basically just skip that step of trying to figure out what to call it, typing that into Google, getting the answer, reading the answer, and translating that into actual actions on your screen. You take away all that middle stuff and you just jump straight to the solution. But I was going to mention that if you think about collaborating, let's say on a Word document or on Google Doc, and it's a notoriously difficult thing to deal with. Anybody who's worked with a lawyer that does revision status or checking, they'll like change something, but you need to see that it changed and you need to approve it. And when you start going back and forth 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 10 times, these things get like unbelievably difficult to understand. So collaborative work with change history is a very difficult thing to work out in UI. And effectively, the way we interact with AI right now is that you're working on something that you're writing, it's suggesting things along the way, and you're basically like continually going back and forth, deciding which thing to do, which thing to implement, which thing to go beyond, things like that. So there's not a great interface for this thing that it needs us to do, or we need to do with it, I should say, is a better way to say it. So it's going to take a lot of time for that to work itself out. And, we'll come up with something, and we'll come up with it because people keep doing things, and as things work, they'll implement it. And as they don't, they'll throw them away, and they'll see other people do stuff, and they'll copy it. And, that's the way all software, like websites, almost all look the same now.
This is
it's kind of how we operate.
There's one site, and I like, me, I'm very bullish on the education aspect.
Yeah, I am too.
Yeah. And this one is like this is not a particularly amazing site or tool or whatever, because it will become increasingly common, but they're jumping on it right away, and that's fine. And everybody's trying to make their bones while they do it. This is called Brainy Docs. And what it does is it creates
cool.
Explainer videos out of PDFs, which means manuals. If you can get a PDF of the manual for something, you can make an explainer video out of it. And for obviously companies will want to do this, just to make it available. Just have this ride along that will go with the product. Hey, download, by the way, download our video that explains hey, welcome to our new software thing, and this is how it works, and we'll run you through all the parts of it. And every aspect of it is in this video with chapters, or there are separate videos for just running each menu point. And just a breakdown video for a human being making it would be tedious as fuck. But having one of these things just crank it out would be brilliant. So it just does this kind of thing, and it just makes it takes your PDF, and then you with your images and all this kind of stuff, and it reads the text in it and it makes a video out of it. And so you can just watch, there you go, create new video, and then you name it, and then you give a description and blah, 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 of course. And then you download it, and it will make this video in like, I don't know, maybe 10 minutes or something like that. And
yeah,
it's like,
Jenny says, I wonder if that would work for Project 2025. Absolutely, it would. You should go copy 2025 information, pop it into ChatGPT, and ask it what it thinks of it.
Yeah,
you can do that right now.
Absolutely. Like, give me a rundown of what this, what this plan means, what it implements, how it's different from, even take this, the contract with America, I don't know, whatever, the Republican platform from 2012, whatever, right. Put those in the thing, go, what's the difference between these things? What materially are different? And they'll go, nothing. Names. They've renamed a bunch of their things, but effectively the impact will be the same. But yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, I should make I'll make a 2025 explainer video on there, and then I'll do one of my replies to it.
Yeah, there you go.
Mm-hmm.
Looks like people are, I mean, today's a big day. I think Biden just started talking, so.
Yes, he's going to give a speech on that thing. So I'll let you go because I kept you over a half hour anyways, and we'll deal with the trendage on that. And then you and I can thank you for spending 20 minutes at the top of the show helping me get through the lumpy nature of this setup, as per always.
No problem.
No problem. And
maybe like early next week we can get together.
Yeah.
We'll just work it out. I might need to be on the phone with you so that you don't have to go in and out of the computer or something.
Yeah,
I know exactly how to fix it.
Okay, great. Well, I trust that is absolutely true. And hold on, let me bring in the chat room so that they can say. There you go. Boom, boom, boom.
Oh, and Carl Smith is volunteering me to help Boston Brian.
Well, his issue isn't necessarily the internet part of it. His issue is OBS and cameras and that kind of stuff.
Oh,
which is a little more my area. You don't have to be bothered with that. That's, that part I've got locked down. It's the behind the scenes PC shit that always hangs me up. Because I've been under the hood of Macs my whole adult life.
Yeah.
And so that I got, like, when there's a problem there, I know exactly where to look. PCs, so my theory was for a long time was that, one of the ways you had job security was to make shit more complicated than it needed to be. Right. And so there was a thing in PC world for a long time that they would just put off making it easier to understand. What's the fucking point? Because I'm just putting myself out of a job. And then, Macs came along and went you should be able to figure out where your printer's hooked up with a little drop-down menu. And there was you could hear this collective thing at Microsoft, all these engineers going, fuck you, because because MS-DOS and all that kind of stuff. They were literally trying to keep it complicated enough where you still need service. I don't think it was a plot. I just don't think there was any impetus to make it easier, right? There was no reason you would do that. Then you hit a certain volume point and you're like, I don't want to be on these calls with these assholes. Can't we just give them an app that helps them straighten it out, right? And we're getting increasingly into that zone where, I'll have my own AI Rob Glenn in the computer that'll go, what is the fucking problem with this website? Why won't it link up? Oh, it's getting a bounce from this thing because your software is looking at this. The inside of this software has a little bug in it or whatever. I fixed the code in that piece of software. It should be fine now, but don't download a new version of it without telling me. Anyways, have some sort of tech dude just kind of constantly built into your computer that just stands there and goes, right. They took my stapler, but that's coming, but it ain't here yet. So
I mean, so I'm not going to get into details of what we did, but the thing today, anytime you have an issue and you figure it out and you solve it, go back and think about how you might have done it with AI. And you'll probably figure out that it wouldn't have been very easy using AI either.
Right.
I don't know how you would even use AI to just figure out what we just did. But I'm going to try it when we get off this call and see if it gives me an answer.
Sure. Well, I think if you give it access to your command prompt, or your,
Yeah.
or in the terminal on the Mac. If it had
Yeah, there's
access to
just
that
so many like different
variables.
possibilities of what. Yeah, I mean, it just gets it gets insane,
Right, and when one of the factors is a piece of gear plugged in the bedroom closet,
that you don't
right,
even, yeah, you don't even know about it, right? Like
right,
that's
yeah,
usually the
like
problem.
exactly. But it would have to do a scan of the network to see what devices are attached. Run like a ping pong ball to each one of them. Go, okay, where am I getting pushback? Around these kind of things, and then go, oh, okay, this is the little thing that's being a dick.
Right, right.
Yeah. So there you go.
Well, I might
Yeah.
be talking with Boston Brian at some point, but
Oh, please do.
maybe.
I mean, it's a good hang anyways. We love him, and we're going to do anything we can to help him, ease his
Absolutely.
load. Because he's in that same frustrated, like when I was just like pulling my fucking hair out as I transitioned from just like, little cutouts or using Ecamm, at the house to like trying to do bring guests in, which is really the tooth pull. Because you can bring guests in, but it just looks like shit on Streamlabs and stuff like that. It looks like
Yeah.
everything else. And that's my problem. I don't like it to look like everything else, obviously. So
If you want any help from me to make assets for your set for this
hell
for this
yes.
show,
Yeah.
I'll volunteer that time too, because I
Oh
like
yeah.
doing that.
Well, the next step, here's the next big step. This
You
is
want
the
to
next.
Unreal Engine it?
Yeah. This is.
Yeah, we should do that.
Totally. And it's static. So, like, I don't even have to worry about parallax and move, but a legit, like, 3D space or whatever with stuff in the middle of it that I could walk around behind. Yeah.
I mean, if you'll allow it, I want this set to be Unreal. Let's have that as a goal.
Yes, I agree. Yeah, I totally agree, and I like that would be the next step where I'm going to my green screen is right here. It's just like this far back, but because I have a desk on the other side of this, I want to move that desk into the other room, move the green screen to the back wall so that I can be almost full body for some stuff, or at least 3/4, and in an Unreal setting, I could set up something where I'm moving around in a space.
Yeah, exactly.
And that interests me as a next level of production, that kind of stuff. Also, I would like a filter that I can put on my guests that makes them look like an actual floating hologram with like little like digital stuff falling off the bottom of wherever their image stops. You know what I mean? So
Yeah,
they just kind of sit like a floating digital head with a slight 3D. There's a program that allows you to create depth maps from 2D images. I was looking at this before. Where is it? Is in
Stable
one of these.
Diffusion does that on the fly, actually.
It does? Son of a.
Yeah.
Oh, well, that'll be the thing. Now
you can build that into Unreal. I got you for that, because that's what we do here.
Yeah, I'm so excited
do
about
lots
that.
of cool, crazy
By the
stuff
time
like
we get to Chicago, we're gonna have a big like sit down. Okay, this is what we need. This is the gear I got.
I'm already figuring
Yeah.
out where you're gonna sit here when you
Oh yeah, sir. Captain's Law, Stardate 25.5. I talked to Rob Glenn. He's got his own space station. I don't know how he did it. We'll figure that part of it out. I'm super excited about that. I mean, I feel like that's kind of the next direction on it. And within the context of like AI, we should be able to put some things in that automate and create a backdrop of the shit that I'm always having to do with my guests and stuff like that.
Yeah,
like,
I was thinking about working on some 3D assets that are more, changeable, and we're starting to tilt off the cliff here.
yeah, you and I are just gonna like push this computer forward. I do have to
People
I
are
will
like,
have to upgrade.
Trump's guilty. Talk about Trump.
I know, and we're like, you don't understand. I could have a sort of a real spaceship, and I could 3D print some real elements from the actual ship that we make, and then they would be physically present, and my microphone could look like a. Yeah, so that's how we work, though. It's a two-man rabbit hole. Like we're man caving like crazy. The other thing I'm going to talk to you about when we meet up in Chicago, just get ready, is I'm trying to 3D print a model of my 3D printed house that I want to make, because I'm trying to get. I've sketched it. I have not fully modeled it. So we'll get to that point or whatever.
But the printing's easy if you have the model.
Yeah, but I have to slice it into pieces, and I
can
me.
do that for you.
Yeah, I know. You can separate chunks of stuff, and I can't. Like, and I try to do that. Like, I want them connectable like a model, and that part's weird. Making those divots and connecting points. Again, ladies and gentlemen, this is just a conversation that Rob and I kind of have when we talk regularly, which, by the way, should happen more often. I will say that because we have Friday,
was why it took a half hour to get us online, because while fixing the wires, we were talking about other stuff.
That's right. We're just like, and, right. So, but that's the goal, is I want to 3D print what that house would look like. And then the kind of like topographical space I would want to have it on, because the goal is, I don't know quite where, house wise. I'll have to pick a place, close to some water, but far enough up in the woods where I could set up like mountable guns or something. A true Streisand effect, but not far off from like think Tony Stark's house versus the Avengers compound, but in a vacuumable size, so it's not too much housework. You don't have to dust everything.
Nice.
But I have the dimensions because they're already that I know how it's going to be laid out and all that stuff. I just modeling it is fucking like, it's just not.
Well, send me the drawings if you want to.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it might be something easy that we can kick out. I mean,
yeah.
If you want to learn how to model, but we might be able to model it in like 2 hours.
All right.
Sorry.
But you don't understand. I want to learn how to do everything myself.
That's what I mean. If you want to learn how to model, then go for it, dude.
Yes, I do. But but at the level I'm at right now, and the other shit I have to do. That's the other aspect of it.
Yeah,
I don't have time to like devote that time to it. But there you go. Anyways, you're wonderful. Thank you for hopping on here.
Thank you, everybody in the chat, and thanks, Hal.
Absolutely. Rob Glenn from Root Design in Chicago, your AI guru of choice. He didn't know he was going to have this job, but now he does.
Now he
does. Yes, exactly.
We'll make it work.
Absolutely. And it's a valuable part of this move because honestly, most of the people, I got to say, there's a lot. I was not sure what kind of our feedback would be on this because I care about it and you care about it, but I don't know how much other people care about it. But the problem is you and I both know they don't have a choice, right? They don't have a choice that's going to happen.
To be here.
Right. Yeah. So the easier we can make it for people to adapt to it or find a way to make it helpful in your life as well as opposed to harmful, that's what we're going to do. So really appreciate it.
And try to let everybody know, don't be scared. Everything's gonna be cool.
So everything's gonna be all right. That's right. All right. Thanks. All right.
Thanks,
I'll do it. I absolutely appreciate it. I'm going to use the last 15 minutes of the show to look at the Biden remarks and talk about Trump being guilty, and then do a show later. So cool. Thanks so much.
A lot. Have a good one. Bye.
All right. Cheers, ladies and gentlemen. Rob Glenn, useful as well as ornamental. And can I just say, a hell of a model American. Really good dude. Love Rob, and so lucky to have met him via this show. That's that's literally how it happened. It was just he was literally like, "Hey, I noticed you're in computer hell right now, and I've crawled out of that hole myself a few times." So, anyways, let me jump into here, chat, while I bring up hi chat room. Don't forget Venmo, help out the show. Like, subscribe, give a thumbs up, support the show. Subscribe, god damn it. And then let's see, Biden remarks. On the, here you go, dump. This will be the, where is it? Click here to read more. I want to watch them live, you crazy pants. I know the live stream is concluded, you weirdo. All right. I'll just go to videos and we'll find it. Ouch. Scroll across here. Go to YouTube first. Thank you. Thanks, NBC. What happened? What froze? What was that? Why'd I freeze? Is it because Rob left? It's because nothing works when Rob leaves? Okay, there we're good. That's what happens. Okay. And then the weird thing is my windows are not the video video walls are not. Let's see. Bump, bump. There you go. There you go. Here, okay. Now I don't know why that moved up there. I gotta say, when we were working on stuff, some of my shit moved around. My screens moved around for some reason. I couldn't figure out why. Like, they just literally, like, both when we were working on fixing the thing, chat room, Rob and I were, he's like, unplug this and see what happens. And two of my monitors that are portrait went landscape, and then the order of them changed. Like, I don't know what the hell. So clearly it's the Russians. So here we go. Yes, we know that. Thank you. Hold on. Let's go back to here. This is the feed. And then he comes. Okay, here we go. Okay, this isn't loud enough. I'm gonna move this over. Hold on one second. Kids, I will borrow this. Copy. And I will move it to the louder browser. I have a louder browser because it has paste and go. It has controls on it. So here we go. Play. There we go. There we go. So this is Biden's remarks related to the Trump shiznizzle.
Just checking this afternoon. Good afternoon.
I think it was like right at noon.
Remarks, I just want to say a few words about what happened yesterday in New York City. The American principle that no one is above the law was reaffirmed.
Mm-hmm.
Donald Trump was given every opportunity to defend himself. It was a state case, not a federal case, and it was heard by a jury of 12 citizens, 12 Americans, 12 people like you, like millions of Americans who served on juries. Mm-hmm. This jury is chosen the same way every jury in America is chosen. It was a process that Donald Trump's attorney was part of. The jury heard 5 weeks of evidence, 5 weeks. And after careful deliberation, the jury reached a unanimous verdict.
Guilty.
They found Donald Trump guilty on all 34 felony counts. Now he'll be given the opportunity, as he should, to appeal that decision just like everyone else has that opportunity. Mm-hmm. That's how the American system of justice works. And it's reckless, it's dangerous, it's irresponsible for anyone to say this was rigged just because they don't like the verdict.
Also, I thought he was just going to, it's reckless and irresponsible for anyone to do business with Donald Trump. Just, it's not a good idea.
Our justice system has endured for nearly 250 years. And it literally is the cornerstone of America, our justice system. The justice system should be respected, and we should never allow anyone to tear it down. It's as simple as that. That's America.
But enough about Alito.
That's who we are. And that's who we'll always be, God willing. Now to another issue. I want to give an update on my efforts to end the crisis in Gaza. For the past several months, my negotiators of foreign policy, intelligence community, and like have been relentlessly focused, not just on a ceasefire that would inevitably be fragile and temporary, but on a durable end of the war. That's been the focus, a durable end of this war. One that brings all the hostages home, ensures Israel's security, creates a better day after in Gaza without Hamas in power. It sets the stage for a political settlement that provides a better future for Israelis and Palestinians alike. Now, after intensive diplomacy carried out by my team, my many conversations with leaders of Israel, Qatar, and Egypt, and other Middle Eastern countries, Israel has offered a comprehensive new proposal. It's a roadmap to an enduring ceasefire and the release of all hostages. This proposal has been transmitted by Qatar to Hamas. Today, I want to lay out its terms for the American citizens and for the world. This new proposal has 3 phases. The first phase would last for 6 weeks. Here's what it would include: a full and complete ceasefire, a withdrawal of Israeli forces from all populated areas of Gaza, release of a number of hostages, including women, the elderly, the wounded, in exchange for release of hundreds of Palestinian prisoners. There are American hostages who would be released at this stage, and we want them home. Additional, some remains of hostages who have been killed would be returned to their families, bringing some degree of closure to that terrible grief. Palestinians, civilians would return to their homes and neighborhoods in all areas of Gaza, including in the north. Humanitarian assistance would surge, with 600 trucks carrying aid into Gaza every single day. With the ceasefire, that aid could be safely and effectively distributed to all who need it. Hundreds of thousands of temporary shelters, including housing units, would be delivered by the international community. All that and more would begin immediately. During the 6 weeks of phase 1, Israel and Hamas would negotiate the necessary arrangements to get to phase 2, which is a permanent end to hostilities. Now, I'll be straight with you. There are a number of details to negotiate to move from phase 1 to phase 2. Israel will want to make sure its interests are protected. But the proposal says if the negotiations take longer than 6 weeks for phase 1, the ceasefire will still continue as long as negotiations continue. In the United States, Egypt, and Qatar would work to ensure negotiations keep going. All agreements, until all the agreements are reached and phase 2 is able to begin. Then phase 2 would be an exchange for the release of all remaining living hostages, including male soldiers. Israeli forces would withdraw from Gaza, and as long as Hamas lives up to its commitments, a temporary ceasefire would become, in the words of the Israeli proposal, the cessation of hostilities permanently, end of quote. Cessation of hostilities permanently. Finally, in phase 3, a major reconstruction plan for Gaza would commence, and any final remains of hostages who've been killed would be returned to their families. That's the offer that's now on the table, and what we've been asking for. It's what we need. The people of Israel should know they can make this offer without any further risk to their own security because they've devastated Hamas forces over the past 8 months. At this point, Hamas no longer is capable of carrying out another October 7th. It's one of Israel's main objectives in this war, and quite frankly, a righteous one. I know there are those in Israel who will not agree with this plan and will call for the war to continue indefinitely. Some are even in the government coalition. And they've made it clear they want to occupy Gaza, they want to keep fighting for years, and the hostages are not a priority to them. Well, I've urged the leadership in Israel to stand behind this deal, despite whatever pressure comes.
You mean the Likud party?
And to the people of Israel.
Or the extremists within the Likuds, the far right of the right?
Let me say this. As someone who's had a lifelong commitment to Israel, as the only American president who's ever gone to Israel in a time of war, as someone who just sent the U.S. forces to directly defend Israel when it was attacked by Iran, I ask you to take a step back and think what will happen if this moment is lost. We can't lose this moment. Indefinite war in pursuit of an unidentified notion of total victory will not bring Israel and will not will only bog down Israel and Gaza, draining the economic, military, and human resources, and furthering Israel's isolation in the world. That will not bring hostages home. That will not bring an enduring defeat of Hamas. That will not bring Israel lasting security. But a comprehensive approach that starts with this deal will bring hostages home.
I gotta say, you know me, I love complex shit, and it's so nice that they're looking at it from the position of this is not an easy fix. It's such a great contrast to this Donald Trump like I'd have it fixed in 10 minutes bullshit, which is not true. Never was. And by the way, the only way you could fix it is to kill one side entirely. I mean, really, whenever you hear Donald Trump say, I could fix this overnight or in 24 hours, it means genocide. That's what he's talking about.
And will lead to more secure Israel. And once a ceasefire and hostage deal is concluded, it unlocks the possibility of a great deal more progress, including calm along Israel's northern border with Lebanon. The United States will help forge a diplomatic resolution, one that ensures Israel's security and allows people to safely return to their homes without fear of being attacked. With the deal, a rebuilding of Gaza will begin. Arab nations and the international community, along with Palestinian and Israeli leaders, to get it done in a manner that does not allow Hamas to rearm. And the United States will work with our partners to rebuild.
By the way, what they're talking about, and this is real quick, one of the issues that they had for a long time was through UNRWA and other NGOs specifically related to the Iranian Guard and all that crowd, was that that the building would we'll give you the funds and some of the materials and you can just build your own shit. And because there were no sort of UN peacekeeper type forces in there making sure they weren't digging tunnels, they were digging tunnels. And they put tunnels under everything that was built. And so you give money we helped them build a hospital, we helped them build schools, we helped them build, a water treatment plant and those kind of things. And they were they used the fact that not only would people be think it was necessary to do that, but also be proud about it, be bragging, we helped them build a school, we helped them build a hospital, that they could use that as cover to dig the tunnels underneath.
Build homes, schools, and hospitals.
There you go. Now you do, but you make sure there's somebody there watching to make sure that that's actually where the money goes.
In Gaza, to help repair communities that were destroyed in the chaos of war. And with this deal, Israel could become more deeply integrated in the region, including, it's no surprise to you all, including potential historic normalization agreement with Saudi Arabia. Israel could be part of a regional security network to counter the threat posed by Iran. All this progress would make Israel more secure.
By the way, that's one of the other reasons why Gaza blew up, was because Iran was worried about normalization of Israel-Saudi relations, and it was a month before Blinken and them had made great progress in this, and that was part of why the trigger point, and that was Russia telling Iran, go ahead and let these guys off the hook, because once Saudi Arabia links up with this, then you got normalization, then we run out of places to just be fighting. Maybe if these folks get along culturally again, and the Islamists aren't running things any more than neocon Christians would want to run Jerusalem, Jerusalem, which is, by the way, a word I heard it called the other day, which is another conversation for another time. That if you can make sure that they, if everybody gets along, but the only difference is they can argue over tea, like they used to in the Middle East before it was really a regional wars about resources. If you can get back to that, which you absolutely can, and one of the reasons why is because oil's running out and we're not going to use it anymore after a certain amount of time. So everybody's looking down the 10-year plans. Why Saudi Arabia is building these tourist destinations and all this kind of shit, and it doesn't help you to be a tourist destination in the world if you're constantly at war with your three regional neighbors.
with Israeli families no longer living in the shadow of a terrorist attack. And all this would create conditions for a different future, a better future for the Palestinian people. One of self-determination, dignity, security, and freedom. This path is available once the deal is struck. Israel will always have the right to defend itself against the threats to its security and to bring those responsible for October 7th to justice. And the United States will always ensure that Israel has what it needs to defend itself. If Hamas fails to fulfill its commitments under the deal, Israel can resume military operations. But Egypt and Qatar have assured me, and they are continuing to work to ensure that Hamas doesn't do that.
By the way, the reason he's saying Egypt and Qatar is because Egypt is the crux point where Hamas gets most of its arms when it does get them. Is that there's just big open land down there, and down near Rafah, the tunnels that they dug, which was arguably where they think Yahya Sinwar was going to bug out through at some point, whether he did or not, we don't know yet, but that he would end up back in Qatar. Qatar was arranging for the Iranian Guard troops and the subsidiaries and whatever, it's a very murky, to get stuff down there, and because there's no way to police that big swath of land, they were able to just drive trucks full of shit down there and then undercover at night sneak them into the tunnels and off they go. And so Egypt knows where those things are, and they look the other way because Hamas has said, okay, we won't sick the terrorists that we know in your country on your secular government if you just let us do this. Don't fuck with us, we won't fuck with you. Well, now Hamas doesn't have the power to fuck with them. So in the fact that they don't have the power to fuck with them, Egypt can start talking from a position of strength instead of constantly on his heels from the potential that, they might have a terror cell come and destroy them if Hamas just gives them the go-ahead.
The United States will help ensure that Israel lives up to their obligations as well. That's what this deal says. That's what it says. And we'll do our part. This is truly a decisive moment. Israel has made their proposal. Hamas says it wants a ceasefire. This deal is an opportunity to prove whether they really mean it. Hamas needs to take the deal. For months, people all over the world have called for a ceasefire. Now it's time to raise your voices and demand that Hamas come to the table, agrees to this deal, and end this war that they began.
Yeah, it's interesting that part of this, it's interesting the phrasing in this, but effectively you could argue that this is co-opting the ceasefire now language and laying it at Hamas's feet instead of Israel's feet. Right now, anybody from this moment forward who's saying ceasefire now is doing it, I guess, if they knowing that the Israelis have offered this long-term plan to do just that very thing. And if you're yelling ceasefire now, you're yelling it at Hamas because the ball's in their court. Smart.
Of course, there'll be differences on the specific details that need to be worked out. That's natural. If Hamas comes to negotiate, ready to deal, then Israel negotiations must be given a mandate, the necessary flexibility to close that deal. Past 8 months have marked heartbreaking pain. Pain of those whose loved ones are slaughtered by Hamas terrorists on October 7th. Hostages and their families waiting in anguish. Ordinary Israelis whose lives were forever marked by the shattering event of Hamas's sexual violence and ruthless brutality. And the Palestinian people have endured sheer hell in this war. Too many innocent people have been killed, including thousands of children. Far too many have been badly wounded. We all saw the terrible images from the deadly fire in Rafah earlier this week, following an Israeli strike against targeting Hamas. And even as we work to surge assistance to Gaza, with 1,800 trucks delivering supplies these last 5 days.
By the way, that Israeli hit or whatever was on a weapons cache near there, and the reason the fire spread the way it did was because the weapons blew up, which they were keeping amongst civilians. This is standard operating procedure for Hamas. Again, Hamas endangering the lives of regular Palestinians and making the Israelis make a choice. Either you continue to get shelled or killed, or you fire or you destroy these weapons, but take some civilians with you and we leave those dead at your feet. So they use them as human shields. That's another example of Hamas using human shields.
1,800. The humanitarian crisis still remains. I know this is a subject on which people in this country feel deep, passionate convictions. And so do I. This has been one of the hardest, most complicated problems in the world. There's nothing easy about this. Nothing easy about it. Through it all, though, the United States has worked relentlessly to support Israeli security, to get humanitarian supplies into Gaza, to get a ceasefire and a hostage deal to bring this war to an end. Yesterday, with this new initiative, we've taken an important step in that direction. I want to level with you today as to where we are and what might be possible. But I need your help. Everyone who wants peace now must raise their voices and let the leaders know they should take this deal.
Yep. See what I said? This is so fucking brilliant. They are co-opting on purpose and with good reason the ceasefire now conversation and directing it at Hamas, who has been, by the way, A, the holdouts, and B, the ones who've broken the other deal.
Work to make it real, make it lasting, and forge a better future out of the tragic terror attack and war. It's time to begin this new stage. For the hostages to come home, for Israel to be secure, for the suffering to stop. It's time for this war to end.
Mm-hmm.
For the day after to begin. Thank you very much.
Mr. President, can you tell us, sir, Donald Trump refers to himself as a political prisoner and blames you directly. What's your response to that, sir? Do you think the conviction will have an impact on the campaign? We'd love to hear your thoughts, sir.
Should he be on the ballot, sir?
You can tell he's like, no, I'm not going to say anything. I love that. He's like, they asked him about Donald Trump and like, do you think it will have an impact on the campaign? And you could tell he had a moment where he's like, nah, fuck it. You know, it's sort of the post-speech equivalent of the shot of, I think it was Ali not punching Liston as he's down, right, as he goes down. Yeah, and again, let him stew in it. The less he says about it, the more. I mean, they're going to put words in his mouth anyways, and you can't fix that. Anything you say, they're going to twist. So there's no point. So like that wry smile is just going to drive fucking like, and I guarantee the people are like, they're going to bug you with questions about it. Just smile, don't wink, just smile, and it'll drive him fucking crazy, and he knows it. I think this is I got to tell you, strategically, this is a brilliant move by the White House worldwide to lay the call for a ceasefire at the feet of Hamas. And folks, fucking fire away with the ceasefire now, because the deal exists, because that's the point of it now. It's now in Hamas's, the ball's in their court. And it's up to them to take this deal, which could, end up in a lasting peace. Now, the problem, obviously, the challenge, I would say, is that Hamas isn't interested in a lasting peace. The Palestinians might be, I think, but I like Hamas as an organization absolutely does not. They, their raison d'etre is the destruction of the Jews in Israel. The factor of calling Israel is less of a concern for them, because it would be Palestine by another name if they could just kill all the Jews. That's the Hamas stance. Not necessarily the Palestinian stance, certainly not the people in the West Bank's stance. The Transjordanians who, suddenly became Palestinians in the 60s for some reason, even though they are Transjordanians. And the people in Gaza who are, 50% Egyptian, and like the ones that weren't born there of those folks were, what a full half of those are Arab, from other countries. They're literally sent there, to continue this fight against the Jews for decades. Hamas are like America's gun organization. It's an interesting way of putting it. I would argue that Hamas, like ISIS, are a collection of school shooters who found a day job. There's you guys, I don't know if you saw the Tom Cruise Reacher movie, but there's a line in it where he's talking about the kind of people that join the military. There are people who want, are traditionalists, their family serve, so they serve. There are people who, do it for love of country because of something like 9/11. And then there's the people who are just looking for a reason to go kill somebody, a legal excuse to kill somebody. And the James Barr, I think, is the guy in the first movie who is accused of the crime, and he's in a coma, so they're trying to figure out how he did it and whether he's guilty and all that shit. And in that sort of conversations, like Barr was one of those guys who wanted to kill some people, and so he decided his last day he didn't get to kill anybody the entire time he was out there. He was on Overwatch with a sniper rifle, and so he just decided he was going to dust it up and go kill some people. And he ended up killing 4 contractors who were sexually assaulting women at in Iraq. And so they swept it under the rug, and he ended up not going to jail for it, but he's a murderer. Like, he just needed to do that, and so that's why he was a good patsy or good source of this murder and the other thing. So, anyways, point being is that Hamas, if like the Palestinians in the West Bank view themselves as the ones who are called up because of sort of a 9/11, whatever constant violence back and forth between Israel and the Palestinians, or the Transjordanians, I guess in their case, if they're the ones who are called up because of that, the Hamas leadership especially are just the folks who found a good excuse to kill people. It's they're going to be king of a pile of dead people, and that's who they recruit from. Same way like Boko Haram does, or ISIS, or whatever. Like, it's about power, control, money, and that kind of stuff. And they're no different than anybody like that who's ever lived. Pol Pot and fucking Stalin or whatever, but just on a smaller scale. Jerry says, super chat, justice matters, go Biden. Absolutely. And let's see, I joined the military because I figured I couldn't be half as bad as it was growing up in my house. Well, there's a reason. I mean, some people do. It's a way out. That's another example. But also that sense of sort of, it gives you some duty and purpose, and which is valuable, right? Yeah, both ISIS and Hamas are fronted by Iran. That's right. And again, think of. How Russia doesn't give a rat's ass about its soldiers or about the Wagner guys? If they get killed, fuck them. They're just there to cause trouble for us in 2 different variations. We have our own army, but we also have these proxies. And if the Wagner guys get killed, we just pretend we didn't know them. That's what Hamas and the Hamas fighters and their leadership, and the Hezbollah fighters and their leadership are. And you could argue, I guess, some of the northern Syrians are to Iran and its army. Like, they don't give a fuck what happens to them. They just, they just want them to go cause the kind of trouble they need to destabilize certain areas for a bunch of stuff. Yeah, they're cannon fodder. Right. They don't actually believe that their goal will ever happen. So, okay, by the way, programming note, my flight's not till late tonight. I'm going to Seattle for the Sexy Liberal show. So I will be doing a regular show and regular radio tomorrow, God willing. Upper says Russia is recruiting in Africa. Yes, they are. And there are a bunch of African soldiers winding up, with, guns with no bullets in them at the front line, just basically so that they eat up ammunition and artillery that they thought the Ukrainians were running out of. That's the other thing. Okay, so here's, strategically speaking, let's just have a strategic moment, and I'll leave you with this thought. So Russia will oftentimes take people, prisoners, immigrants in their own country that they scoop up and pretend they don't have papers and go, hey, you can be, we'll put you in jail and then, deport you back to wherever you ran from, where you got no place to go because you're probably a criminal there too. Or you can go to the front line and fight for us. And what they do is the Russian citizens that they might even marginally care about, those guys are held back a little bit. And when they want to send these big meat waves forward, they will send the Africans, the migrants that they've scooped up, illegal migrants, some in Russia, some ethnic Chinese that are in parts of the country. They'll scoop them up and they'll send them in to basically just absorb bullets and artillery to wear down the Ukrainians so that they're using up what they have, and then the next wave will come of the real fighters and the real Russians, right? So they use them as a meat wave. That's exactly right. And so they were, while Marjorie Taylor Greene and the rest of these assholes were denying funds to Ukraine, they were putting Ukraine in a situation where they did not have those kind of arms, where they had to pick and choose. And so the idea was, if the Russians thought even more, we'll send these guys in, they'll die in the meat wave, and then our guys will come in and actually gain some territory, which is what they did during that period of time. Which means that not only is Mike Johnson and Marjorie Taylor Greene and all that crowd responsible for more dead Ukrainians, but they're also more responsible for more dead Russian migrants and Africans that are fighting at that front line who were used up during that period of time. When the Russians know the other side has limited artillery, limited ammo, they will go, okay, this is the time to send these meat waves forward to just just get chewed to pieces. And the people they send are those Africans and those migrants that they scoop up, and they're poor and they're mentally ill and whatever. They'll just send them. They'll just hand them a wooden cutout of an AK-47 and tell them to run in that direction or we'll shoot you. And so I mean, obviously, ultimately, Russia is responsible for doing that. But the availability of that tactic can be laid right at the feet of Mike Johnson and that crowd, and well, more so Marjorie Taylor Greene and Matt Gaetz and that crowd, until they passed it. Because they gave that opening to Russia, Russia took it, and the way they would take advantage of that is to send migrants, people of color. They were responsible for more, dead Africans because of that specifically. Just saying. I'm just saying they got a lot of red in their ledger. And they're going to have to deal with that in their own heart psyche if they ever can address that, or when they meet their maker, it's going to be on the list. Because I believe, what happens after you die? Whatever you think happens. Because that's the nature of extended consciousness. So if you think you're going to go to hell, that's where you're going. If you think you're going to go to heaven, that's where you're going. If you think you're halfway between the two, you'll get stuck in limbo. If you think there's nothing, you're probably in the sim we all live in, you're probably a bot, and so you're right. I'm fucking around. But the point is, the Marjorie Taylor Greene crowd and everybody who was denying support to Ukraine are partially responsible for the death of these people. I'm just saying. Other than that, I have no opinion. See you later this afternoon. By the way, hit the like and subscribe. Share the show. Stuff we finally got up on. Yeah. Cool. Thank you. Exactly how What Dreams May Come True. Yes. I think it was What Dreams May Come is the movie about it. Right. I happen to believe it's much more like Defending Your Life. Thank you guys. Hit that like on your way out. Appreciate it.